Hello, everyone, and welcome in. We are just going to take a couple minutes so that everyone has a chance to come in to our workshop today. The workshop is, you may see a message on your Zoom that this workshop is being live streamed to YouTube. We have a high attendance, so if that allows for the overflow. So your video will not be shown. It's just, you'll just see what you see on my screen on that channel. So I don't want anybody to be worried that that you're going to be on the YouTube. You're not, it's just me. So welcome in. I'm really excited to have everyone here. We are, this is our last Mother's Day card class. Mother's Day is next weekend. So this is our last class, and then you have a couple days to make your card if you need to. The card will remain free, so you'll have a little bit of time to finish up your card if you need to. The class will be 3 parts. The first part will be kind of an overview about how to make the card and what we're making today for our class, and then we'll go into Design Space together and start working on the card. And the third part will be the assembly. So we'll cut the card and we'll assemble the card. Now, some of you may have had a chance to take one of our workshops previously. Some of you, this may be your first workshop. If everyone wouldn't mind letting me know which workshops you've attended before, or is this your first ever Cricut workshop, and maybe even your first ever Zoom webinar. So this may be your first time. If this is your first Zoom webinar, on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little Q&A. That is how you can communicate with us. Today, I have Christine and Katie answering questions through the Q&A on the backside. We leave the chat open so that's where we can send information to the group. So if we have like measurements or an image ID or anything like that, we do that through the chat, but the way to communicate with us is through the Q&A. And I do want to encourage everybody to use the Q&A. This is the benefit of the live workshop. We have experts here to help answer your questions from their experience and what they've created. So let's take a look at these, the results of the poll. Most of you have taken Cricut 101 and Cricut 102, which is fantastic. And 36% of you, this is your first Cricut workshop. Welcome in. I hope this gives you a great flavor. And if you need to go back and take some of our other workshops, you do that as well. And then 15% of you, this is your first Zoom workshop at all. So that is, I think that's really exciting that you're dipping your toes in today. Now, I will be working on my desktop setup for Design Space. And I'm wondering, how are you guys going to be working on Design Space when we get into that second section? Will you be using a desktop, a laptop, or your mobile device? And I'm seeing those numbers are coming in quickly. Most of you are using a desktop or laptop. So I always think that's easier because you have such a bigger monitor to work with. So that's a great way to take a class. You may watch it on another device and then have your Design Space on a second device. So that some people like to do that too. I will show you when we get to the part where I invite you to open up Design Space and work along with me. I will show you how to minimize both screens so you can have both Zoom and Design Space open together. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end this poll. I know some of you are still answering that question, so I appreciate that. But majority of you are joining us with a desktop or laptop, so you will have the same experience I have. If you're on a mobile device, when we get to doing it together, please let our Cricut experts know, hey, I'm on this device and I'm having this problem, and they'll be there to help you out. All right, so why don't we go ahead and jump into, actually, I'm seeing my numbers still going up. So I'll ask one more question. Which machine will you be crafting with today? Now, you may just be watching and then you're going to craft later. But which machine will you be using to make your Mother's Day card if you're crafting today or some other time in the future? I'd love to know. So I will have my Maker 3 up. And you'll be able to see how I use my Maker 3, but I know lots of people will use their Cricut Joy or their Explore machines. So every machine will work in the class, whichever one you have available to work with. So that's going to be fun. Okay, let's go ahead and see where everybody is. Most of you will be using some form of Maker, and then most of you will be using your Explore, with just a few of you joining with your Cricut Joy. So make sure if you're on a Cricut Joy and you have any questions or issues as we go along, you let us know, hey, I'm on my Cricut Joy and this is where I'm having trouble. We'll be able to help you out with that. Okay, why don't you grab a pen and paper, and I'll start the presentation part of it. This is where you can like jot down notes. Feel free to take screenshots. I ask that you kind of keep pace with what I'm doing in the presentation and not jump ahead. I know it's so tempting, but not jump ahead, because hopefully a lot of the questions you may have will be answered in this portion. So we'll get your questions answered, but this might give you a lot of information all at once. Okay, so the Mother's Day card, this is an actual example of the card we'll be making today. It is the flip card. And if you haven't had a chance to play around with these cards, it's really fun. The key to making anything in Design Space, it's really 3 easy steps. The first step is designing your card. So whether you're designing a card for a holiday or just having quick and easy cards on the go with you, you'll do that with Cricut Access projects in Design Space. Now, Design Space is our home screen, and we'll do some keyword search. You don't always have to design in with a Cricut project. You can start from scratch. You can upload a design, anything like that you can work with. Then the second part is sending that design from Design Space over to your Cricut cutting machine and cutting out your project. Today, we'll be working with cardstock, pattern paper to make a card and an envelope. And then the third part is actually assembling your project. So after you've cut out your layers, we will assemble those together. Now that all sounds really easy, doesn't it? Let's talk a little bit about the supplies you'll need. You'll want to have some cardstock that is a 65 to 80 pound weight in 8.5 by 11 or 12 by 12. To cut today's envelope, you do need a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. If you're on a Cricut Joy, you'll just resize the card down, and you may skip the envelope, or you may resize the whole thing down to fit on your Cricut Joy, giving you a very small card, but it would be cute. If you're joining us with an Explore machine, you will be using a scoring stylus. If you're on a Maker, you can use your scoring wheel or scoring stylus. And if you're joining with a Cricut Joy, your scoring lines will be done manual, and I will show you how to do that. So don't worry about that step. Then the last, you need your paper adhesive. So either like a glue stick, double-sided tape, or a glue pen. And you can use any variety or combination that you want. The only thing I recommend is that you do make sure that your adhesive is specifically for paper. Like you don't want to use an Elmer's glue, because that's a liquid-based adhesive and that can wrinkle up and warp your paper. So you do want to make sure that your paper, your glue adhesive, is specifically for paper. And then the last part is a Cricut pen color of your choice to match your paper. So yeah, that all sounds real simple. Let's talk about some of the options we're going to have when we're making our card. We'll start off with a Mother's Day card blank. So what that means is this is a starter project. So the starter project has no embellishment, no decoration on it. It doesn't even have colors on it. It's just really a white card. What makes this card unique is the folds that you create so that the centerpiece will appear to spin. It's all connected, but the way it's cut really gives it a unique look. When we go into Design Space, we will be looking for the Flip Card Starter Project. Now, in Design Space on the home screen, you can do a keyword search. So our keyword search will be Flip Card Starter Project. And actually, you know what? I'm just going to write that down, because sometimes I'll just put in Flip Card, but I'm going to write down the whole name, Flip Card Starter Project. Okay. Now, what's cool about the Cricut projects, when you open up a Cricut project, you'll have some options. It'll show you the materials that you need. And then as you scroll down, it will show you how to prepare your materials, how to cut and assemble your materials to make your card. You can either refer back to those directions in the project like this here, or you can print those instructions out if that makes it easier for you. That's always an option. Now, when we come into the project, again, we're going to be looking for Flip Card Starter Project. And then as you look down on that section from the home screen, you'll notice that it will have this drop-down box right here. So when you click on this arrow, it drops down a list of projects that go with the overall idea of a flip card starter project. So within this one starter project are a number of additional starter projects based on how many folds there are, either it's a trifold or bifold, and based on the shape of the centerpiece. So there's a heart, a square, and a circle. For today's project, we will be using the circle trifold, meaning that it will have 3 folds. So when you click on the circle trifold, it will only give you access to that certain size with the circle in the center. So it will look like that. Again, we're going to be looking for that flip card starter project circle trifold. When you bring that image onto your canvas, it may be grouped together. When items are grouped together on your canvas, that means you can move them around and resize them. So here I want to make a note for all of our Cricut Joy users. When you have your machine selected to Cricut Joy up here in this upper right corner, and you're searching for a project or an image, the software gives you projects and images that are compatible with your Cricut Joy. As you can see, when this project comes in, it's a bit bigger. So you won't be able to find it if your machine is set to Cricut Joy. So you need to change your machine setting to a Maker 3 or any of the other machines, really. You can do this with an Explorer, a Cricut Maker, any of the different machines. It's just the Joy, you'll have a harder time finding the project. And then while it's grouped together, you can resize it if you need to cut on the Cricut Joy machine. The finished size of the card, the envelope is 5 by 5, but it does take a 12 by 12 sheet of paper to cut it. So you may just either want to hide the envelope or shrink it all down so that the width is 4.5 inches wide on this card.
Hey, Coach.
Yes.
I just wanted to give everyone a quick reminder that this is our presentation portion of class. And when it is time to go live, Coach is going to show everybody exactly where to find this card for you guys.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that reminder. Yep, we're going to get there. So don't jump into it yet. All right. Now, we're going to be adding a layer to our card that is a text layer. So when you're adding a text layer, we're going to be using the pen in the clamp A. If you're on a Cricut Joy, it's just in that one single clamp. So when you come onto Design Space and you bring in your card, now I have changed some of the colors on my layers just to give myself an overall look of what the card will look like. I will certainly show you how to do that. If you're not familiar with this, I really want to encourage you to either take our 101 or our 102 classes to learn how to do the color changing. When we're adding a text box to our canvas, on the left-hand side is the design panel. We'll click on the text icon and add a text box to your canvas. Once you click on the text icon, this little box here pops up. Now you can just take and start writing in that box. You don't have to worry about getting your cursor in there or anything like that. If you want to change your text style, this is Cricut Sans. As you can see here, it's Cricut Sans. If you want to change your text style, you can hit the drop-down menu And we're going to add some filters to our text style. So from the filters, we will add, let me just back up there. Sorry about that. In the text dropdown, when we click on the lines with the 2 dots there, we can select filters. So you want to make sure you have a writing font because we're going to be using a pen. And if you don't have Cricut access, you want to make sure that you have that you set it to a free font. And then as you type your saying in, it will appear in the layers panel. Now, once you've typed in your font, you want to line up your letters, like your words, on the insert piece here, this little insert piece. We'll center this using the align tool. And then we're going to select both the text layer and the panel layer. And what you need to do is we'll go down to the bottom where the actions are and select attach. And what that will do is make sure that when we send the file to your cutter, your writing goes right on the piece of paper and then is cut out. It's a 2-step process. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And if you want to go ahead and open up Design Space, I'm going to talk about some of our supplies that we need for our card. Now, I recommend that you use 65 to 80 pound cardstock. And you may not know what weight cardstock you have. Knowing the weight of your cardstock is important because when you go to cut it, you need to select which type of material you're cutting. So I have some different options here that I'm going to show you. This first one happens to be printed on both sides. It's really flimsy piece of paper. I would put this one at a copy weight paper. And how I know is like I hold it in the middle with my fingers and then I turn it up. It instantly collapses and folds down on its side. So it just folds down just like that. So you want to make sure that if your paper just collapses like that without you really even having to move your fingers, you are familiar that that's copy weight paper. So about the weight you would put in your printer. If you're using a 65 pound weight, when you hold it with your fingers, it will also droop down, but it's not as much. And if you really give it like a good hold, you crease it in the center there like that, it will stay up. It's only when you really move your fingers that you get that curve. And then the last one is the 80 pound weight. And I don't really recommend going heavier than 80 pound weight. You can do 100 pound weight cardstock and just use the double scoring tool if you have your Maker 3. But for this card, I think the 80 pound is about the thickest you want to go. Your 80 pound cardstock, again, you put your fingers behind it and you turn it over and it really does a nice job of holding its weight. The difference between the 80 pound and the 100 pound is if I really shake it, it still droops. Your 100 pound cardstock will droop, but not nearly like with a curve like this. It'll be more like this. Okay. So knowing the weight of your paper is important. If you're on a Maker or a Explorer Air 3 or a Cricut Joy, you'll use your material settings in Design Space. If you're on an Explorer Air or Explorer, you can use the dial and set your weight of your cardstock right there. Now, I will be using my, don't see my scoring. I was going to hold up the scoring tool, and I don't see it in front of me. I must have slid it somewhere, but I'll be using my scoring wheel. And when we get to this part, I'll show you a closer up version of what this will look like. We use our scoring wheel, and then I have 2 different types of adhesive I'll be using. One is just a Zig 2-way glue pen, and the other is a tape runner. So this is just a double-sided tape. So either of those will work for you. And then you'll want to have a Cricut pen to go in your pen case. So you'll have all those different elements there. Okay, now I think if we're ready, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and we are going to go into Design Space and locate our project. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And we've got this. Let's see my design space. I think this is my design space screen. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, I told you I was going to show you how to minimize your windows. So let me do that for anyone who's trying to work on both design space and your Zoom at the same time. So up in the right-hand corner of every program that you open onto your desktop, you'll see these three little icons. One is a slash, one is the middle one are these little boxes on top of each other, and the X. Don't click the X, that will close out your program. So if you're on Zoom and you click the X, you'll get kicked out of the Zoom meeting and have to re-enter. This middle box here allows you to reduce the size of an image on your screen. So I can take this and make it smaller so that I have that on one portion of my screen. And then I'll just take this screen here and make it bigger. So I will have two windows on my desktop at the same time, and I can go back and forth. If I need it to be bigger, if I want my Zoom to be bigger, I would just make it like so that they're stacked, and then you can click back and forth between which window is in front of the other window. Okay, and I'll try and give everybody a heads up. Hey, get your eyes on my Zoom screen. I'm going to show you something, and then go do it. So I usually do things 2 to 3 times. The first time it's like, hey, watch me do it. The second time is we're going to talk through it. And then the third time is let me show you again. And then hopefully everyone should be able to do it by the third time. One other thing, I will check throughout the class on how everybody's doing. And now in our webinars at the bottom are these little reaction signs. You can give me a thumbs up or a heart and just say yep, I got it. I'm ready to move on. And that's super helpful. When we see all those hearts and thumbs up floating along, we're like, okay, everyone's with us. So yes, exactly. I see them coming now. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen again. And we are going to go into Design Space. Now I already have Design Space open on my desktop. So when you open Design Space, you'll always come on your desktop or laptop to the home screen. And the keyword search bar, if you've used Design Space for a while, is now up at the top left corner here. So remember, I wrote down my keyword search. We are going to be looking for the flip card starter project. And if you have your machine set to the Cricut Joy, this project will not show up for you. So make sure you go and change your machine to a Maker or an Explore machine so the project will show up for you. Now, once you hit OK, you'll have a series of bars of content. So the first one is always images. So any image to do with a flip, a card, a starter, or a project will show up. So it really jumped onto that flip, and I get lots of flip-flops. Then I have my own projects I've made show up below that. And then below that are Cricut projects, and below that are community projects. So we're going to look in the Cricut projects. Now I can already see that this has showed up for me as the very first project right here. If you don't have this in the first grouping of your projects, you can click on the View All, and that will open up all of the 6,310 flip card starter projects. But what we're looking for is the flip card starter project here. So when you click on that flip card starter project, again, remember, it has a lot of different sizes and shapes within this one project. So it says this is the flip card starter project, heart bifold. But remember, we've got this great groovy drop down. So when you click on that drop down, you'll see all your different choices are available. And the one you want to select is the circle trifold. So when you click on that, you'll see your image changes at the top, and you'll see that you have inspiration of what other people have done. As you scroll down, you'll see your directions and materials that you need and everything like that. So after you've made this card, if you want to come back and do the heart or something of that nature, you can always come back and your instructions will be here. But don't forget, this class is being recorded, and as soon as it's available, we'll send you out a link to the recording, so you can always go back and watch it again. Now, once you've found this card, go ahead and select Customize. And what Customize will do is it will bring this card onto your canvas and your canvas working space here. Okay, now if you changed your machine to a Maker or Explore from Cricut Joy and you're working on a Cricut Joy, go ahead and convert it back to a Cricut Joy machine so that you can resize the grouping so that it would be 4.5 inches. Okay. Now from here, I'm going to show you how you can change the colors, but you don't have to change the colors. And I also want to touch while we're here. Okay, should I go back, guys, and show how to find it again? I'm seeing a couple people struggling with that. So let me just go back. I'm going to go back to the home screen. If you're having problems finding it, we might want to watch me do this. And I'm going to do the keyword search, flip card starter project.
Hey, Coach.
Yes.
There's also a link directly to the project in the chat if anyone needs that or wants to try that.
Perfect. Thank you. So here, once you type it in, you see all those flip-flops? Those are the images that have to do with your keyword search. I'm looking for the Cricut project that is the flip card starter project. Once you click on that, it will open up the project window. And it shows a heart, but we don't want the heart. So you're going to click on the drop-down menu here, and you'll select the circle trifold one. And that will pop up right there for you. Now, also, let's see, I'm trying to see, yep. If it will give you the image, the card image itself, but I think last time we were having trouble pulling it up that way. And then you just click Customize and it will bring it onto your canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that because I've already brought it onto my canvas, and then I'll just navigate back to my canvas here. Okay, so here we are with our card. Now, again, if you're on a Cricut Joy, you will need to resize it, and then I'll show you how we can remove the cut lines. But before we get there, let's talk about what our card is going to look like at the end. I'm sorry, I didn't do that sooner. This is our card. So when you open up the card, it will cut one flat piece here, and then we'll cut these little insert pieces here. You have 2 of the rectangle, and you'll have 2 of the circle. And then we can add a little embellishment if you'd like. Okay, so you're looking at a bunch of different layers. We're looking at the one big card, which I'm going to cut out of one piece of cardstock. I have a pattern piece of cardstock to cut the flower pieces. And then I have another color to cut these 2 pieces out of. So I will have all those pieces to cut out and my envelope. Okay, so let's talk about, don't worry about resizing. Don't worry about scoring, anything like that. You guys are getting ahead of me. We're going to talk about coloring and changing the color on the canvas right now. So don't worry about the size of it or anything like that. Let's go step by step. We're going to do this together. All right, so now you'll see on my canvas, all the different layers are what's called grouped. So they're all grouped together. So I can move them around my canvas together, and I can resize them on my canvas together. We don't want to resize them unless you're on a Cricut Joy, but we do want to ungroup these layers. So in your layers panel, this first little box here says ungroup. So you just go ahead and click on that. And what that does is it ungroups all those layers. Now, when I click on a layer, I can just move that one layer onto a different space of my canvas. Why did I have that extra triangle and circle? Those two pieces are this flap here where we're going to write on and your inside flap here. Okay, so that's those two pieces. So if you'd like to, you can change the color of those pieces to match your cardstock. Do you have to do this? Absolutely not. You could leave it all this color and just send it over to your machine and work out on how you're going to change your colors on your prepare mat. I kind of like to do it on my screen. Number one, it teaches you guys something new. And number two, you get a better visual of what you're cutting and where you need to cut it. So if what you want to do, the first step, we're going to ungroup. Let me get everything grouped back together. The first step, ungroup all your layers. So in your layers panel, you're going to go ahead and click ungroup. Now you'll see all these different layers are ungrouped. So you just click that layer and it ungroups it. Now you'll notice that bounding box is still all around everything. So I can still move it all together, but as soon as I click off the bounding box, I can pick up one layer at a time. Okay, so once you ungroup, everything will be together in one bounding box. Still, once you've ungrouped all your layers, click anywhere on your canvas and that releases everything. So grab one layer of the circle and one layer of this rectangle, and these are going to be your lightest color cardstock because we're going to write our text on this layer. So my colors today are going to be a light bluish purpley color. So I'm going to go ahead and change those to a light blue purple color. To change your colors, you simply go up to the edit bar. Right next to operation, you'll see a little square there. And when you click on the square, a drop-down menu appears and you can change the color. Now, if you didn't know about that, guys, this is where we do this. We talk about this in our 101 and our 102 class. So you can see it that way. Okay, so from here, we know these are going to be our lighter color squares. Then you have your card layer. Now your card, I'm going to move my envelope to the side here, and I'm going to select my card layer and move that down. So your card layer will be the base of your card. And I recommend to cut this out of a solid cardstock, and here's why. I used a printed cardstock, and when your card folds together, it might be a little hard to see, but see how this side is the print and this is the solid? I personally didn't like how that turned out. I prefer to have it all look the same, like around the circle and everything. So I like to cut my card out of a solid cardstock. So that's what I'm going to do with this one. So my next color of solid cardstock is going to be a light, it's going to be a light green color. So this element here, I need to turn to the light green. Now, if you'll put your eyes on my Zoom, I want to show you guys something. Because some of you may be saying, I can't change the color. It's got this red slash line through it. I can't change the color. That's because we have both these dotted lines selected and the card selected. These dotted lines are your score lines. And when you have score lines, you can't change the color of the score lines. So you need to go to the layers panel on your right side and select just the card itself. When you do that, it changes your color box and removes that red slash, and it changes it to the color of whatever your card is. So let me just show you that again. If I select both,
Coach.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but it is very helpful when members are answering our questions. If you guys can give us a little bit more detail, when you just respond yes, we've got about 10 other questions going at the same time, so we're not really sure what you're saying yes to. So if you guys can just give us a little bit more detail in your responses, that is very helpful to us.
Great. Yes. And if you also let them know, like let our Cricut experts know, hey, I'm on a tablet and I can't find ungroup. It may be in a different location on a tablet. than it is on something, on another element. Okay, so now once you have, when you select the card, the background card here, and I just click on the card, because these layers are attached, when I click on it, it selects both your score lines and your card. And you'll see, like, I have that red slash line. So what I have to do is go over to the layers panel and select just the card layer and not have the score layer selected. So I want just my card layer selected. Then I can go up and change the color to that different shade of green I'm going to be using for my background card. These pieces here will all be cut from solid, from the pattern paper. So I'm just going to leave these all as together. They're all grouped together. So this will all be a pattern design for my card. So that's all going to be the pattern design. And then if you want to change the color of your envelope, just to kind of keep things, if it's going to be a different color than your pattern color, you can certainly change the color of your envelope again by selecting just the envelope layer and not the scoreline layers. And then you can come in and select just that layer and it changes that color. So I want to make sure everybody is good on how to change colors. You do not have to do this step. This is something I do for my visual. It helps me when I go to make it, because then when I go to make it, you'll see all my different layers are going to be on different mats, and it's easier for me to keep it all together. To ungroup, Jamie, ungroup when elements are grouped together, like when you have multiple things grouped together, it's going to be up in the top of your layers panel, and you just need to click on the two little boxes there to group and to ungroup. So that's all you need to do there. Okay. I just want to make sure everybody's caught up. Yes, Dee's having a little bit of trouble. If you're watching it on YouTube and listening to it on Zoom, the YouTube has a little bit of a lag there. So that's going to happen. Your envelope, Pamela, you need to use 12 by 12 on the envelope paper. It does take up a full sheet of 12 by 12. And thank you for pointing this out. This little bottom piece here, it looks, when you go to make it, it'll look like it's cut off, but just take note that that is like just notched at the bottom there. So you can just do that. Now, before we add the text, I want to go back and touch on these score lines. If you are on an Explorer or Maker and do not have a scoring tool, leave them there and the machine will just run those lines. Don't worry about it. If you're on a Cricut Joy, the Joy does not have the scoring function. So you'll get like a little red error sign. And what you need to do is just go to that layer. So like I'm going to take this card here and I'm going to go to the score line layer and I'm going to hide those score lines. So you don't see those score lines now, and it will go right to your Cricut Joy if you're using a Cricut Joy. So that's how you do that. So Ro, I hope that answers your question there on how to hide your score lines. Okay. Would double-sided paper, if different on each side, be good for this card, or would that be overkill? Deanna, I think that just depends on what your paper looks like. If you have a subtle pattern to your paper, it may be fine. If you have like a lot of crazy designs, it might be overkill, but that's up to you. That sometimes we make something and we look at it and we're like, oh, that was too much. Let me redo that. So you can redo that one.
Hey, Coach.
Yeah.
Okay, it looks like we still have quite a few people who are struggling to change the color. If we can go over that one more time.
Sure. To change your color, and you don't have to change your color, guys. Just know that. Like, this is not a must do. To change your color, just select a layer, and up at the operations panel, you'll notice that you have a little color box next to where it says basic cut. You click on that and it pulls down a drop-down menu, and then you can change the color. You select the color you want and it will change the color on your canvas. And I say you don't have to do this because the machine doesn't know, oh, she's going to put purple paper in, so I need to make sure I have purple paper. The machine doesn't know that. Okay. Now, if you are working on, say, the envelope and it has the score lines on it, when you select that element with the score lines on it, you'll be like, I can't change the color. There's a red hashtag line there. What you need to do is go to your layers panel, select just the envelope layer, not the layer with the score lines there. So you just want the envelope layer, and then you can change just that color. So we'll just change that. And that's how you do that. Okay. Now, if you need to hide your score lines because you're on a Joy, you just select the scoreline layer and you use, it's hard to see because with the text there, but you just cross that out. Okay. And then those will hide. They're still there, but they're hide. All right. Now, if you're a little bit behind, don't worry. Work with Katie and Christine. They will keep you up to speed. Or if you get behind, they'll help you catch up. I am going to move on though and add our text to our card. So to add the text, all you need to do is go to the design panel on the left side and select the icon text. And this brings in a text box. Now, the sentiment I'm going to use says, mothers are like flowers, each one beautiful and unique. So I'm just going to start typing that in. You may just want to say Happy Mother's Day, or, you're special. I love you. Thank you for all you do. Whatever sentiment you want to say to your mom. If you're doing multiple lines, like mine will be 6 lines, I'm going to use, you type in the text box just like as if you're doing an email. So if you're doing an email and you want to have your lines, 6 different lines, when you get to the end of your word, you just hit enter. So I just hit enter at the end, and that's how I get it to stack on top of each other. It defaults to align to the center. So these will all line up on top of each other. Each one beautiful. And then I'm going to use the ampersand and unique. So this is my sentiment. Mothers are like flowers, each one beautiful and unique. Now, right now, it's definitely bigger than I'd like it to be because it won't fit on my card here. So I'm going to have to make it smaller. But before I do that, I'm going to change my font, because when you look at the Cricut Sans font as it is right now, this is a cut font. So each of these letters are intended to be cut out of cardstock. I don't want to do that. I want them to be written with a pen. So when I have my font, when you have your sentiment written out, you want to go to the font edit bar, which is at the top of your screen, and you want to go ahead and select the drop-down menu. Now, the drop-down menu, I love how this kind of sets it to one side on your canvas. So you have your text box here and your choices here, which is great because then you can kind of go back and forth between the two. So I will choose to use a filter. So on my filter here, I just can select that I want to use a writing font. And then this will narrow down my choices of font styles that are writing fonts. And if you have Cricut Access, you have access to over 700 different fonts. I almost want to say it's like 1,000 fonts. But I'm going to choose free. So anybody who doesn't have Cricut Access, we can use the same fonts. So I just am going to choose the free font. Now you'll see I have 21 free fonts that are writing style fonts. And you can choose any one of these that you'd like to work with. Life's a Party is one I use quite a lot. The Little White Lies is a cute one too. So when you click on a font, you'll see it will change on the screen. Now, I just, I kind of don't, I try not to flip back and forth through too many because my computer slows down when I do that. So I'm just going to try one other one, the Telegram text font, and see if I like that font. And I do. That one's nice. Okay, so then you're ready to go with your font. Now, if you just watch that, I'm going to go ahead and go and start from the beginning, and we'll do that again together. So if you're going to go to your design space screen, you want to click on your text icon and make sure that you are writing with, sorry, let me just get back to the standard Cricut Sans font. So I'm doing it the same as everybody else. Okay. That should switch it to that one. And I don't want it writing because I want it to look like what you guys have. So I'm going to switch it to regular. Okay. So I have my regular, font box, and you just click into that if you need to, and go ahead and start typing your sentiment. I'm typing, mothers are like flowers, each one beautiful and unique. Oops, I don't need a capital U there. All right, so once you have your sentiment typed in, now we want to change the type of font we're using from a basic cut font to a writing font. To do that, you have to go up to your font edit bar and click the drop down menu right where it says Cricut Sans. You click on that drop down menu and we can filter our fonts. So I'm going to do a free font that is a writing font. And once I hit enter, I'll get a lot of different choices. I don't just want the Cricut Sans font. Let's see if we can get some other choices here. And you can choose any of the fonts that you'd like to work with. I'm going to switch and use Telegram text. So now that I have mothers are like flowers, each one beautiful and unique, and it's set up as a writing font. And I like it. It's beautiful. So I'm just going to close out of my font box there. And then the next part we need to do is attach the writing to our insert piece. Now, as you can see, mine is too big. So I need to get it smaller. When I go to get it smaller, I can just use one of the boxes here and resize it in like that so it'll fit onto my card. Another thing I can do is measure the insert piece, and it's 3 inches across by 4.8 inches tall. So I know that my text, I don't want it to be more than 3 inches. So I'm going to change my width to say 2.5 inches. And I do that up on my edit bar, and I change the width to exactly 2.5 inches for my sentiment to fit right on my card. So once you've gotten it resized, I'll give everybody a minute to do that. Once your sentiment is resized, we need to attach the sentiment, your text, to the card insert. If you do not do that, what will happen when you send it to the prepare screen is it will put your writing on a totally separate screen, and then on a totally separate mat, and then the cut part down here. So we don't want that to happen. We want it all to come together. And to make that happen, we're just going to attach it together. Now, before you attach it together, you may be like, oh, I don't know if it's centered. I want it centered on my card. I'm not sure if it's centered or not. You can use an edit tool called Align. So if you want to watch me align my text to my card, I'm going to show you how to do that now. you need to select both your text layer and your card insert layer. So I'm going to put a box around both pieces, the text and the card, and have both of those selected. Then I'll go up to my edit bar and select the align function, and I'll choose center. Now that moves my text right to the center of my card. And then with both of those selected, I would then choose to attach at the bottom in your action panel. Okay, so let me do that again. Let me just show you how to align one more time. Your insert piece, your text layer and your card insert, you want to select both of those by taking your cursor and dragging a box into both layers. And then you want to choose the align to center. And it puts that card right in the center. And then if you're on a desktop or laptop, at the bottom of your layers panel, click that attach. And you'll see how that changes in your layers panel right there. And that's all together now. So now when I go to send it to my machine to cut, it will cut those pieces together. Okay, so let's go ahead, and if we're ready, give me a thumbs up or an I got this if you're ready to go ahead and start cutting. All right, I'm seeing lots of thumbs up. The card with words is going to go on this inside panel here on your card, Kathy. When you finish it, when we bring it all back together, it actually will look like this. This piece here, this gray card here will go on the back side, and this gray circle will go on the back side. This purple circle will go on one side of the circle, and this will go on this side of the flap. Okay, now just a reminder, if you are using a Cricut Joy, your width has to be 4.5 inches. Your envelope is probably going to be too big, but if you stack everything together inside, you can put a bounding box around all of, not the envelope, get out of here, little envelope. You can put a bounding box around all the card pieces and resize this to 4.5 inches, and then that will fit in your Cricut Joy. So now is when you will change the size of it. Okay, now, and I did say, don't worry about the paper size you're working with. If you have 8.5 by 11 paper, you won't be able to cut out the envelope because the envelope is a 12 by 12 size. So either I would just make the card without the envelope, or you have to resize the envelope so that it would fit on an 8.5 by 11 size. And then that would mean resizing everything. Okay. If we need to, I can go back and do that at the end, go back and resize. Well, I guess, you know what? If you're ready to go ahead and cut, go ahead and set it to your prepare screen. If you have an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, here's my trick. I will take my, just a shape like a square, and I will change the size of that to 8.5 by 11. So if I have it this way, I will know how big what's the biggest size I can make for my envelope. Then you need to make sure you have all of the layers selected. Let me make sure I get everything selected here, including your envelope, but not that rectangle, and then resize it to fit into the rectangle. So I always do my resizing last because you can. So I always will resize my elements once I've got it designed, then I would go in and resize it. So there's how I would resize that. And then now you can cut it in on the 8.5 by 11, and it will cut everything to 8.5 by 11 size. Okay. All right, oops, I cut out the wrong thing. All right, so let me go ahead and send mine over. I'm ready to start cutting it out. Let's go ahead and go to the Make It screen. Okay, All right, so my first layer will be my pattern paper layer. And then I will have my card itself. Then I'll have my insert pieces and my envelope. So it's going to cut 4 layers. Your order may be different depending on the color you selected. So it may go differently, but that's okay. Just cut it as it goes along and you know what you're cutting. All of mine, I'll be cutting on the mat. If you are using 8.5 by 11, this is where you would change your material size to 8.5 by 11, and it would align things to fit on your 8.5 by 11 paper. I have 12 by 12, so I'll be using 12 by 12. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and send this over. And again, don't worry if you're a little bit behind. We are going, like Katie and Christine are going to be helping you guys and making sure that you are you're progressing along with us. Okay, so I will be using a medium 80-pound cardstock, and I choose this remember material settings. So each time I change my material, I don't have to change my my material settings. Now, if you're on a Cricut Maker, it will automatically prompt you to load in your scoring wheel. If you don't have a scoring wheel, you can simply click on Edit Tools and choose the scoring stylus. And then you can cut with your scoring stylus. I'm going to keep mine to the scoring wheel so you guys can, if you don't have that, you can see what that looks like. But I am going to start with my pattern cardstock first. Okay, so let me stop sharing here. And we're going to go to the overhead camera so you guys can see everything coming together. So Christy, the gray layer will be your solid cardstock, right? The gray layer is, I did not change that color. That's because that's my pattern layer. So that gray layer is my pattern layer. And that's the individual pieces. So the gray layer will have all of your individual pieces on it. Now I am using the blue light grip mat because I'm using cardstock. So I'll use my light grip mat here. And I'm just going to go ahead and give that a nice little push down to make sure it doesn't wiggle around on me. You want to make sure whatever paper you're using, it's going to stick to your mat. So if you have a brayer, you can use a brayer. If you don't have a brayer, use your hands or a wedge. Just that keeps it from wiggling. Now this doesn't have any scoring, so I'm just going to have my fine point blade in there to cut it. Why do I get the attributes, no attributes for a score? Uh-oh, I just lost it on my iPad when I want to score. Anna Rosa, what are you using a Cricut Joy? If you're using a Cricut Joy, the Cricut Joy doesn't have the ability to do the score. So you have to just hide those score lines. I'm not sure from an iPad, maybe our Cricut experts can hop in and answer that one. I'm not quite sure why that is. So I think it's probably because you're using a Cricut Joy. So Deb is asking, how do I get the text change to draw? Deb, you want to use a writing font. So when you choose your font, you want to make sure that you've selected a writing font. Then it will write for you. When you're using a pen and text while we're drawing, it's actually considered writing in the software. Okay, so I can feel everything cut out. I'm going to go ahead and unload my mat. When I move my cardstock off of the mat, I always turn my mat over and I peel the mat from the cardstock. This prevents my cardstock from curling, and I can just pull that right off of my mat like that. Now I have my different pieces here. And if you're like me, you may lose your pieces. They might get stuck under something. So I always have a little tray on the side that I can put my pieces on as I'm working. So I'm just going to set those aside there. And L's asking, can we rewatch this afterwards? Yes. If you're making with me today, that's great. If you're not making with me and you're just kind of like, I'm gonna watch and learn as she's doing this, that's great too, because you will be able to you'll be able to go back and watch this again, and you can pause it and start it and stop it. The benefit to our live workshops is that we have our Cricut experts here to answer questions for you. So if you're, crafting along with me, or if you're just watching, you're like, wait a minute, why did that happen? Or why did she do that? I'm not quite familiar with that. They can give you those tips and answers and recommend places to look for that information, whether it's online or maybe suggest a class or something like that. They'll give you all those great tips. Now, this is going to be my card layer, and my design space is prompting me to put in my scoring tool. So if you are using a scoring tool, and I had mine out here and I don't know what happened to it, but I don't have a scoring tool really. If you're using a scoring tool, it will go into clamp A, and you just lower it into the clamp, and it will, you'll just click it into that clamp and close the clamp, and then that will do your scoring that way. If you're on a maker and you have a scoring stylus wheel, this is a single scoring stylus wheel. So I'm going to put that into my maker 3, close that up, and I'm going to go ahead and hit start. Now we'll do the score lines first, and then it will do my cut lines second. So Susan's saying my score lines are detached from the card base. So Susan, if that happens, they just got detached or moved around. So if that happened, you just have to go back and attach those 2 layers together. So just go back into design space, select the score lines and the score lines and like your card layer, and just select them both, make sure they're both highlighted, and attach those together. And Deborah, my thumb, I was cleaning out our she's asking what's on my thumb. I wish it was something cool. It's a Band-Aid. I was just cleaning out a drawer and I sliced my thumb on a razor. So unfortunately, it's just a Band-Aid. But I have my kids are all older now, but I have little kids, and so we have these fun Band-Aids left over. All right, so now again, I can see my cut lines. Your score lines, you may be like, I can't see those score lines. I don't think it worked. It did. It did the scoring for you, and it's going to be there when you go to score, so you'll see it. Okay, again, I turn my mat over and I remove my paper from my mat like that. And then my next layer I'm going to cut, I think, is my writing layer. So I'm going to use this light purple color. Now, if you have the box of Cricut colored pens, you can choose a different colored pen if you'd like to. I think I'll just use black. I should have maybe selected a purple or something like that. Maybe let's just see if I can grab those. They're handy. So what I like to do if I'm choosing a pen to go with my cardstock, I may just draw a little bit and see how I like that color. Oh, that's cute. Okay, I'll use this color. Which color is this one? Geode. And I take the little arrow and I put that down in clamp A. Listen to it click. Now, don't forget, if you're on a Cricut Joy, your pens are different tips. So your Explorer and Maker pens have like a longer barrel here, whereas your Cricut Joy is going to be smaller. So you do have different pens between Explorer and the Joy machines. And your Maker and your Explorer are the same, but your Joy is different. So it's just going to go ahead and do that. So if you're having trouble with your pen, so someone's saying my pen is not making clear lines, I'm going to show you what I do is I do my pen first. So I like to test my pen, number one, to make sure it's nice and juicy, that it's got good ink and good flow in it. So like a little test like that is always good. But so you make sure it flows. If it catches anywhere and doesn't do the writing that you want it to do, you can send it back through your machine and do do the writing a second time. So before you eject your mat, you want to hit the play button a second time and it'll do it all over again. And guys, I've made this card so many different times. It's such a fun card. If we have time at the end, I have one already cut out to show you for a bus driver. So if we have time for that, I'd like to show you that too, but I see someone saying they're starting over. I would say, Erin, unless you have to start over, depending on where you are in your process, you might just want to go ahead and make this card even, because I'll show you guys what we're going to do is I have my cheat sheet here on how to fold the card. So I'll show you this, but if you're not loving it or it's not turning out the way you want it to, go ahead and use that as your cheat sheet for future cards. So Fatana, I cut out first. So the way, let me answer that question. The way your mats, your prepare mats show up in Design Space is based on color. So I'm going to share my screen here while that's cutting away. It goes in a rainbow color. So if I had like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, that's how the layers stack up with your neutrals at the top. So because my pattern paper, I left it the gray color, that was the first one I cut. And then I cut the green one, and then the blue one, and then the darker blue. So the color you use will determine the order of your cuts, which I think that's just as fascinating. I hope Cricut never changes that because I think that's such a fun way to do it. But so my first cut that I made was my pattern paper because I had left it that gray color. But if I had changed that to like red, then that would have been the first layer I cut. And then they order up they stack up by red, orange, the Roy G. Biv, like the rainbow. Okay, now at this point, I would check my writing and go, do I like it? Did it catch everything? Are all my letters caught? Yes, it is, so I can unload. If for some reason, like one or two letters didn't show up, I might go like, you know what, I think I can take my pen and fix those and not worry about it. But if I have like a really bad error in my pen, what I would do is I take my pen out first and I would just scribble and make sure, is my pen good? Yes. Put it back in, listen for it to click. Close it up. The clicking is important because you want to make sure it's pushed down. Also, if you have like little cardstock fibers, that could get on the tip of your pen, which could cause a problem and cause skipping here as well. And then you just hit the play button and it will bring in your mat a second time and it will run your lines the same on top of what you already have. Mine looks really good, so I'm happy with it. I don't need to do that. I'll take my pen out and pull my cardstock out. And again, we're going to remove it by turning the mat upside down and removing the paper from the mat. And again, I do it that way so that my paper does not curl, because you really want to make sure your paper is not going to curl on you. Now, my last piece is my envelope, and I'm going to use my scoring wheel again on my envelope. We've got this really dark color here, which this card I will hand deliver, so I don't have to address it. But if I did have to address it, maybe those opaque Cricut pens would be fun to address it with and get that to write on there. That would be neat. But I am going to hand deliver this, but you could also use Cricut cardstock and do your address label that way if you wanted to. That would be fun. Okay. Oh, and good question. Can you change the order of the mats in the prepare screen? Unfortunately not. You can't change the order. I don't know why, but you can't. But that would be a great suggestion. I'd love to be able to do that. Deborah saying, my first thing is a score line and not a cut line. Yes, Deborah, that is correct. Your machine will first do all of the scores always, and then it will do the cut lines. And that's because if it did the cut lines first, your cuts might wiggle and get out of place. So we'll always do your score lines first and then your cut lines second. Lisa says, my trifold and circle and words are all in the same mat. Is that wrong? Lisa, no, it just depends on if you changed your colors or not. If you didn't change your colors, your background colors, they all may be on the same mat. But if that happens, you can change the mats that they're on. And I'll go into Design Space and I'll show you that in a second. You know what? And actually, to answer the question, can you change the order? I think I may have a way to do that. I think I may have a way to do that. Good question. So you can, if let's say you put these all in the same, they got all in the same mat and you want to do them on different mats, you can move elements around in the prepare screen. Okay, so there's my envelope is all cut. And I'm just going to give everybody a minute or so to catch up on cutting if you're still cutting with me. And I will show you how to change the order in Design Space. And actually, I think this may answer the other question. So let me share my screen here. So I'm done. I've done all my cutting. And I'm going to go back to my prepare screen. So let's go back to make it. And let's say I changed my mind. Let's say this circle here, I wanted to cut on the same color as my envelope. So what I would do is go to my circle prepare mat, and I would change the location of this mat, of this element. So when you click on the different elements on your prepare mat, you get the bounding box, this black box. You can rotate them around if you need to or want to on your mat, but then you have these little circles here. When you click on there, you can say move object, and you can move that object to an existing mat. So if I wanted to move it onto the mat that was the paper that was the same color as my envelope, I could just move it onto this mat, find a little spot and have it rest there. If I wanted this out of a completely different color material and I wanted it to be my first mat, if I say new, and I can change the color of my mat to white, that should be the first color. Let's see what happens. I moved it onto the white mat. Oh, and it comes down at the bottom. All right, so that didn't do that didn't solve the other problem of rearranging your mats, but I can just move it onto a different mat if I want to. Okay. So let me stop share here. And while we're paused, I see so many good questions. Where do you find the font you were using? Linda, to find the font that I used, I did a font search for free fonts that were writing. You just want to make sure that you're using a writing font on it. It doesn't really matter which font you're using. Oh, Diana, yes, Diana, it's a good point. You can select a mat on the left side and Cricut will cut that mat. So you can do mats in your own order. Yes, very good point. You can jump around between your mats when you get to after you do the prepare. So you get everything, where you want it to be. And then when you hit continue, you can say, I want to start with my green mat. And then you cut your green mat and then it'll process through the different mats. If you want to, you can say, okay, I'm going to do the green mat and then jump down here to the blue mat. And you just can click on the different mats. So yes, you don't have to do it in that order. Okay. Okay, so let me just see, I'm getting questions about my font. So let's go back in here and I'll tell you what my font was. Oops, I don't want to do that. Sorry. I did have the filter for my fonts as, let me cut that. I put on my font filter for free fonts that we're writing, but the font itself is called Telegram Text is the font I use there. Telegram Text. Okay, so now that I've got everything cut out on my mat, here, let me get that out of the way. We can start putting it together. And this is the tricky part. So I kind of would appreciate it if everybody can, I don't want anybody to miss this step. So I want to make sure everybody's watching this step. Even if you're cutting or something, just give yourself a pause to watch this because you want to understand how the card folds together. So first of all, you want to move the card so that the circle, your cut circle here, is on your left side. So my circle is on my left side of my table. That's my left side. When you fold the card, you'll fold along all the fold lines. And then this is where it gets tricky. This right piece here is your inside flap. So that's going to fold over in half like that. Then from there, you're going to fold this, where that meets up, there's a score line right there, and you're going to fold that over. Now what happens is your circle is extended out on the side. You're going to hold that together and hold this side along these score lines back to open like that. Okay, so your first fold is going to be the right side, fold that in. Where it meets the other fold, you're going to fold on top of that like that. Then we're just going to fold this back in half like that. Okay, so then when it opens like this. See, and that's that little piece there that makes it look like it's spinning, but it's not. It's one piece. So what I did is I started off with, I made a scrap piece. So if you're going to cut it again, you may want to write out on here what's going to happen. The right side is going to become the inside flap, and this is going to be the front of your card. If you turn it over, you'll see these two pieces are the back of your card, and this is the front of your card. So you can take this side and lift that and push it to the back. And then you've got the front of your card here. And so you're going to fold there, fold forward, and then fold back. Okay. Even if I can bring it closer to the camera, it's going to be out of focus though. So you're in your right side, have your circle on the left. Your right side is going to fold to the inside. Now, if you turn it over, then your right side is going to fold to the back like that. Then you flip it front and you flip it in half like that. And then your circle, you want to pull your circle to the front. Okay. Now, if you used a Cricut Joy and you didn't have score lines or you didn't have a scoring stylus, what you need to do is add your score lines onto your card. So my trick for that is I take my mat and I put my little plastic sleeve back on it. I really appreciate that somebody asked about my thumb. You guys are so sweet. I put that back on it. And then you take your card and your first score line needs to be at 3.25 inches. This first score line, you need to be 3.25 inches. So if you have a ruler, you just measure it 3.25 inches, make a mark that's your 3.25 inches. Then you line up the top of your card onto your cutting mat so that your 3¼ inch is right there. And then you can just use something that's soft and round. Like I like to use my stylus if I don't have my scoring wheel. I like to use, you can use this edge of your wedge here will work. And you just run that right down along that line. And that gives you your scoring wheel. Another way to do it is if you have your paper trimmer, you have a scoring channel right here. So you can take your card and line it up to that 3¼ line there. And run, if you have, you know, your little piece tool here, you can do it right there. But here's a trick. And our other teacher, Danny, he said I blew his mind when I showed him this. Your blade here can come out. So you pull it up and it removes the blade. And you should have on the back of your trimmer another, oh man, another blade. This black one is your scoring blade. So you just put that back in the channel like that, close it up, snap that in, and now you can score. So you put your card at the 3¼ inch line, you run your score line, and then you're going to advance that to, we'll turn it over this way, and you're going to do a 3¼ line again, and then you're going to move it in and do a 2½ inch line. Okay, so this line from this edge in is 3¼ This line here, the score is 3¼ and the second one was 2½ Okay. And you do have centimeters if you're using centimeters too. All right. So that's how you get your score lines. I've shown you a couple different ways. If you don't have a Cricut cutting tool, most cutting boards do have the functionality of offering a scoring blade with it. I will give you one other little plug on my Cricut cutting board. It does 13 inches, so I can use it with my Smart Cane. So that's another bonus there on that one. Okay, so we have our card, and we're going to go ahead and do our fold lines. So with your card facing up, your circle on the left side, we're going to fold in first to that 3½ inch line, and just give yourself a nice clean fold there along the score lines. Then I turn it over and I do my next fold, which is the next closest fold here. That's about the 2½ inch line. So you're just going to score that. And then we're going to turn it back over to the front. And we're going to score it along that last score line. And this one it's a little trickier because that circle doesn't want to, necessarily behave, but there we go. And Penny's funny. She's like, mind blown. Mine doesn't have a scoring wheel. Yes, you can purchase just a replacement on your blades. In fact, you should have nice fresh blades on your paper trimmers always. That's like the most important tool you can have. So you want to make sure that stays clean with fresh blades on it. Okay, so now that we've got the folding figured out, the rest is the decoration. So we're going to take our mothers are like flowers, each one beautiful and unique. This is going to be the inside of our card, this right side facing up. This is the inside of our card. So I'm just going to take my tape runner and run that along each edge here. Whoops. Uh-oh. Am I out? Let me grab my other tape runner. I always have extras handy just in case. All right. So let me just finish up that. This is the Tombow mono adhesive tape runner, which is also really fun to use. So I'm just going to insert that onto here. That's the inside of my card. Now the front of my card, I have my decorative panels. So this card is going to turn over and this front piece will be the front of my card. So I want to make sure that my pattern is facing upwards and we're going to put that on the front. I hate hiding that pretty pink color. So this is going to go on the front. And if I eyeball it, but it's about 1/4 of an inch around. So you want to leave about 1/4 of an inch around. Now you'll notice your two pieces around the circle, one's a little bit bigger than the other. This, the one here, the smaller one goes on the front of your card here. That's how it's going to close up like that. So you want to go ahead and glue that down, adhere that one down. We're just going to run our tape on here. Wouldn't it be a day to have all my tape run out? We're just going to add that right on there. And again, about 1/4 of an inch. So it'll have a clearing all around the sides. About 1/4 of an inch. Now, when your card opens, you can add either the, this piece goes on the inside here. So we're going to add that one there. And if you wanted to, you can add, this is your solid cardstock. Like I could put the pink one on this one and handwrite a note onto the card if I wanted to. Or keep it solid color. Keep it in pattern color here. All right, so there we go there. So now I've got all those parts there. And then my last one is the inside of my circle. Now I could just put this beautiful circle on here and call it a day. And it's a beautiful card. You could add a monogram to the center if you wanted to. You could add a little, I might cut out like a 3D butterfly, in which case I'll probably want to use my scrap here and cut out a butterfly, maybe add some sequins to it and put that onto this circle here. So I'll go ahead and put, so I'm turning it over. This will actually be the front circle. And I'm putting my solid one here. Oops. So we're just going to put that one here like this. And then just so that there's a pretty decoration on the back side of the card. So in case it gets opened the whole way, I'll put this on the back side, but it really won't be seen on the inside. All right. Now there we go there. And then to finish it off, you can just add another little embellishment to the card. And if mine seems to be a little bit off, I like my circle to be coming through, but there we go. Just like that. Now the last part is your envelope. And this is the easy part, right? So we're just, again, you'd want to run your score lines around that square from corner to corner. Just go ahead and add your score lines on there. I'm just going to fold along the score lines. And if anybody does those envelope sealers, those really beautiful, where you use a hot glue gun and a stamp or the wax melt, like that would be just so beautiful to do that, add that on right here. I don't have that cool technology, so I'm just going to use my adhesive and run that along here and pop that up onto my side like that. Now, if you are mailing this card, I would recommend that everybody think about having it hand stamped so that it will go through the mail and not through the machine. So you want to have it hand stamped. And because it is a 5x5 card, you may you may need a little extra postage, but isn't that beautiful? Just like that. And then you can address it. You can handwrite on it. You could cut out your mom's name, anything like that on the front of it. All right, now, how are we doing on time? I think, oh, we've got time. We have time to answer questions, or if there was something I needed to go over again, if anything I need to clarify, just let me know. Carlene, hand stamped, when you go to the post office and you put a stamp on your card, it gets metered through a machine. So it's sort of like sending it through like a printer, I guess, and it'll like stamp that meter up here. To get it hand stamped, you just go to your post office and you walk in, you say, could you please hand stamp this lovely handmade card I made? And they will hand stamp it so it doesn't go through the machine. Now, also, if you guys don't mind, if you have to scoot out now, that's great, totally understand. If you are going to hang out, we're going to go through a couple other things. Like I said, I had a teacher, a bus driver card to show you how to assemble it. It's the same thing, but I think like it's just, it's so easy just to change the colors and the sentiment, and you can adjust this card for pretty much anybody. Somebody said they wanted to see the butterfly, so I would just probably take this little pretty butterfly. It's pretty, I know you could just, there's so many, right? You could just, that's really pretty. You know what, let's cut this one out. So I'm going to cut that butterfly out, and while that one's cutting, we can talk, I can show you a little bit, we can talk a little bit about the bus driver card, and I'll show you how to assemble that one. So once I picked out my butterfly, I'm just going to bring it over here. Now this does have a lot of cut lines in it, so it's going to take a bit to cut it, but it, I'll show you what we're going to do. 2.8 inches. So I think my width, I want it to be like 2.5 inches. Let's see how that would look on here. What do you think? A little bit too big, maybe 2 inches. That's going to be tiny, but 2.25. Okay, and then I'll just select both of those and just align it to make sure that I have the right shape on there. I guess it's okay, because yeah, that's fine. That's going to be beautiful. Okay, so this little butterfly, I'm only going to cut out the butterfly. So when I go to make it, I can just choose whichever prepare mat that butterfly is on. So that's on this mat right here. Now, this butterfly would be beautiful cut out of like a glitter vinyl applied to my card, or an iron-on vinyl applied to my card, or even like felt. You could cut out a felt, would be really pretty. But because we're working in cardstock, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out of my 80-pound cardstock. So my medium weight cardstock. But what I'm going to do is, instead of cutting it out of the medium cardstock, I want it to be there it is, an intricate cut, because all those little details, I want to make sure that they get cut out smoothly. So I choose cardstock for intricate cuts. Now, this will take a little bit more time to cut on my cutter, because the cutter goes over the design twice. But it will be a, it'll give it a nice, good cut. Okay, so let me go ahead and stop sharing here, and we'll go. Okay, so I'll just put my blue on here so it matches. And then we'll just cut this one out of the cardstock. So while that one's cutting, I do have the bus driver card. I'm going to show you guys, if that's okay. Okay, now if you I see some questions about print and cut, and I did print and cut some stickers. So I've already cut out everything to assemble this card. So this is really just to show you guys another pattern cardstock, and then some things you can do on your next card, because like I said, this is you will use this card for so many different things. I'm just going to slide that way. Okay, so here's my base card, and I'm just going to give this the folds it deserves. And I do usually fold to the inside on the score lines. I don't see my score lines. So I'm just going to fold that to the inside on my score lines. Oh, so Catherine, I hope this is helping. She asked if we go over the folding again. So when your card is laying down with your circle on your left side, you're going to fold the right side in, and that's like 3¼ inch in. Then I turn it over and fold my next score lines. And that was 2½ inches. And then you're going to fold it back where the card meets. You have a score line there, and you're going to fold that back. And that's how you get your folds to go. Okay. Oh yeah, definitely, Diane saying, could you cut the butterfly out of glitter vinyl and put that on the card? Ooh, that would be, definitely you can do glitter vinyl. You could also do just glitter cardstock. So many choices. Now, okay, so for this one, I had this fun little bus material. So I chose that as my inspiration. And I have my pattern bus pieces. So let's put those on first. So I told you guys I get messy when I get to crafting. Good thing you can't see all my crafting space. Okay, so this is my little piece that's going to go on the front. Can everybody see that? I know my machine's kind of, I don't, trying to figure out the best way to do this. Maybe I just move the machine all the way out. You guys will still hear it chugging along and see it moving. Okay, so here's my first piece. I just put that on the left side here. So if you're still assembling your card, you can follow along with me. And then I have my bigger insert piece, and that's going to go on the other side. Katie, do you want to answer? Do you want to ask me any questions out loud while I'm doing this? Okay, now, so this is where my sentiment goes on the inside of my card here. But instead of writing it out, what I wanted to do on this one was I used vinyl. Okay, so let's just pause this for 1 second because our butterfly is done. It's beautiful. I don't know if you guys can see it yet. Go like that. We'll come back to this at the end. How pretty. And again, I just remove it from my mat upside down like this. And then I'll clean these little extra pieces off my mat with my wedge. Because I don't want those to be stuck there. All right. Do you mind if I set this aside for a few minutes? Our beautiful butterfly here. I'm just going to set that guy aside so I can finish this card. We'll come back to that one. Okay. Because for this section here, I wanted to do my sentiment, and it was a little bit bigger. My words were a little bit chunkier. So I thought like, well, I could just cut it out of cardstock, but then that's kind of I didn't want to have to piece all those pieces together in the class. So I thought, well, I'll do vinyl. Now I am using the new linerless vinyl from Cricut. So it doesn't come on a roll with a backing paper. It is a little bit more flexible. So I really like that. And I used, this is smart vinyl. So when you're removing smart vinyl, I always like come at an angle, and if it starts to stick, like by stick, I mean, if it's not coming down onto the transfer tape, I will fold a line and where it's sticking up and then peel back. And if I really get in a difficult pinch of a spot, I'll start at a whole new angle. So like I've got that off, but then I might come back over here and do a different angle as I move down. So like I'll cross over there, and then I'll just kind of come across here. Now, if you're not super comfortable working with vinyl yet, again, we have our 102 class, and our 101 class, which both help you learn how to cut vinyl and layer vinyl. So those are good, and they really help you with design space. So I encourage everyone to take those classes. Get that down there. This is like our little bonus. If you took one of our classes before, I didn't do this little bit of extra. Okay, so here we go. I thought about completely having this removed ahead of time, but you just have to like be a little patient and fold down that transfer sheet, fold down your carrier sheet, excuse me, on your letters. So you get each little letter off as you go. And you just have to be a little patient with it. The our regular Cricut's regular vinyl does the carrier sheet's a little bit thinner, so it's a little bit easier to pop it off than the smart vinyl. Should have my finger there. We're just going to cut it down here. At the end of this class, when the class ends, we do have a survey. If you wouldn't mind taking a minute and filling it, literally will take you just a minute when you close your computer to fill that out and let us know what you thought of this class and what classes you'd like to see in the future. We're always looking for the best ways to help everybody learn their Cricut and become Cricut experts. So we like to meet you guys where you are in learning. Okay, one more and one more here. Oops, I was wrong. There we are. Now I lost, thank you for the sweet ride. So I'm just going to slide that back on to my vinyl and I will use my tweezers to do that. So I'm just going to take my tweezers. I put my finger on the carrier sheet by accident. So we're going to put that back right on here. It wants to stick to me. All right, so now I've got, thank you for the sweet ride. And that's going to go on my little insert piece here. Now on our card we did in the class, we actually wrote on the insert piece. This time I'm just using vinyl and I'm going to position it a little bit towards the top because I want room to add a little sentiment on the bottom. So I'm going to cheat here and use my self-healing mat and line up the line on my carrier sheet with the line on my self-healing mat, and then push my piece of paper, my insert piece, up to that line there. And then I can just pull it down and I know it's going to be lined up perfectly. Now, if you're using, I recommend using an older piece of transfer tape when you're working with cardstock so that you don't accidentally peel up the cardstock. But look at how nicely that comes right up off of the cardstock without doing any damage to the cardstock. And then I'll just set that aside and save that for later. But that was, now that's vinyl, and I can add a little sentiment onto there. Which label template did you want to see? If I can show my label template. Oh, this one. Sorry. Yes, I'll put that right there so you can see that one, Maureen. Or not Maureen. I'm not sure who asked for that. But there we go. Okay, now I'm just going to put this on here. So instead of having to pick up all those little pieces of cardstock and individually glue them and then try and line them back up, I've done that with the vinyl. So now my card will look like this. And I seem to be missing, didn't I say I lose my pieces? I seem to be missing my my piece here for my bus. There should be another, I'll find it. It'll turn up. But what I did now, I added another little element in design space. So I wanted to make sure it all coordinated, and I knew I was going to be handing this to somebody. So it was going to be hand delivered. So I added an extra little layer into my envelope. And I'll show you what I did. In Design Space, I took the envelope and duplicated the envelope layer and then sliced where the score lines are so that I got just the top insert piece here. And then I did an inner offset on that so it lines up on the inside of my envelope. So it'll line up right on the inside of my envelope. So then all I have to do is just glue that right down into the inside of my envelope. And then once I make my envelope, will be on the inside. Okay, so that's going to just pop in there like that. And then when I make my envelope, look at how cute is that? So you can take a little piece of your pattern paper, if you're using a pattern paper, and put that in there and create your envelope like that. I will share this project out. It's in my profile, which our Cricut experts wouldn't mind putting a link to my profile for you guys so that if you want to, I don't think I shared it out yet, but I will certainly share that out with you guys. And let me see if I can find, wouldn't you know, oh, here we go. Okay, I was gonna say, wouldn't you know, I cleaned out my trash before the class. I thought today I threw this away. All right, so let me just give myself another little piece here. Maybe I didn't cut that out. Okay, so I need a little piece for my front insert here. And this is going to be 3 inches. Sorry about that. I thought it was so good. Let's make this 3 inches. See how I'm using my measurements here to make sure I have it right. By 4 3/4. And did you guys know your paper trimmer has that little fancy arm? Most smaller looking paper trimmers do have the arm that comes out. This may be, did I not switch out my blade? All right, here we go. So here's my little bus. This piece goes on. That will go like that. Let's see. Oh, shoot, I go. So that's going to go on the bus like that. It's going to go on there like that. And then I did a print and cut of a bus. So I found a bus in Design Space that kind of matched with my paper. And I did a print and cut of that bus, which actually I think I would rather have that here. So I'm going to take this off and put that on this side here. And there we go there. There's the inside of my card like that. Then I did the print and cut and I printed off these little buses, added an offset and cut the buses. And that will just go right in the center of the card there. And then once I write my message and say thank you for my kids or whatever, you can slip a little gift card in there or something. And then I would put this in like this. Close it up. Now I could just use my yellow circle on the front of it. That might look a little too McDonald's-y, but you could use a bus. And if you wanted to, I made on my sheet, I did a little bus. And I would put that here with the bus driver's name. Put his name there. And then I close it up and I'll put a bigger bus right there. Now I do have this as a separate project with the little buses and everything. And unfortunately, I don't even know where this paper is. I think it might be a very old Me and My Big Ideas design of paper. But there's your little bus driver card and the stickers. Now my stickers, I did use Cricut's Print Then Cut vinyl or printer vinyl. I did use that material for my Print Then Cut. So if my bus driver wanted to, I could even do some cutouts and have them go in a water bottle or something like that. If you wanted to do, if you wanted to be a little extra, you could do that. So now these little pieces, I'm just going to make sure everything cut out. Show my little pieces out here. Now for this little butterfly, it's the wings are so fragile. You could put like a little piece of tissue paper or something behind it if you wanted to, or glitter, like cut out the glitter, the butterfly in a glitter design. Let's see. My paper I used is from Cricut. Okay, so there's my beautiful butterfly there. So for this guy, I do think I only want the I want the wings to kind of be free. And once I give it to my mom, I'll pull it out and kind of give those a little oomph. There, a little bend on those. But if I put that in there like this, and then we can put that on. It's quite centered. I can center that on there. All right, now I've got that centered on there. And then one last little thing I'll do. I'm gonna come across the room. Sorry guys, I'm coming back. I'm going to add a little bit of a sapphire on there, a little rhinestone on the flower. So I'll just put a little dab of glue there and add a little rhinestone in there. Not sure if it's going to behave to be picked up like that for me. Nope. All right. And there we go. So there's the little butterfly. I can, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit for you guys. There we go. There's our butterfly. And how it opens up. But and when she puts it on her stand, it'll be, you'll see the butterfly and the message will be on there. And then our bus driver, you can see, like, you really can't even tell that that's vinyl. I use the Smart Permanent vinyl. So it has, like, it's not shiny. It's not the glossy vinyl. So it kind of comes off like that. And there's the bus. And my little stickers. And the stickers are great. Like, I calibrated my machine. This is the first time I'd made stickers since the stickers came out. So I calibrated my machine to make sure I got the good cuts on the lines and everything. And I'm really happy with how they turned out. So those are our projects. That's our bonus. Let me switch over to the different camera so you guys don't see that fuzzy. Come back over here. Now, were there any last questions that we didn't get answered or anything like that? I don't want to leave anybody without an incomplete project or anything like that. How often do you need to calibrate your machine? I really don't calibrate my machine often. I just know that the Print Then Cut was recently updated. So I wanted to make sure that, that it was calibrated properly. I think that there are guidelines on when to calibrate it. I know that you don't just want to do it all the time. But if your cuts are off, the calibration should help with those cuts. So guys, keep kind of fold. The fold guide will be in when you get the recording of this class, the fold guide will be in there. So you'll have that. I will try and take a picture of that and add it to my project. Let me show you guys how to find me in Design Space. So if you wanted to do the bus stop project or something like that, you could certainly do that. If you go into Design Space and go to the home page, you can type in my name, and it's Kesley, Kesley, Kesley Anderson. And the S comes before the L, which is unique. And if you scroll down to the community members, there's my profile right there, Kesley Anderson. And underneath, when you go to my thing, instead of edit profile, it will say follow. So you can give me a follow and you can see the different projects that I have shared. And while we're here, I will show everybody, save your projects, and then you can share them out. So here's my bus driver project. All I have to do is make this public in Design Space. Now you can look for a bus driver thank you flip card and get to this project, or go to my profile and pull up that, and you'll see that project under my profile. So again, if I go to my profile here and I go to my shared projects, there's the bus driver flip card right there. So that's that, you can find that and you'll have that. And I will add, let's see, I'm pretty sure I have the Mother's Day card as well shared. Oh, nope, I don't. Let me go into my stuff while we're here, so don't forget about it later. There's that one. Where's the Mother's Day card? Oh, I'll find, here it is. And I will share this out, make sure, oh, that is shared. Okay, so it's the Mother's Day flip card class that you want to look for. And then I will take a picture and add a picture of that template for you. So you'll have that. And one last thing, if you guys enjoyed this class and learned from it, I hope you did. I hope you got, even if you're an experienced crafter, I hope you got one tidbit that helps you. We do have a new card class coming up for Father's Day. So I'll give you guys a sneak peek. It's a little box for dad. And on the inside, you can add either a gift card. It'll give you a cutout, like a little insert for a gift card. I made little, in my project, I made little coupons with using the perforation tool. So join us at the end of May for our Father's Day card class. Also, one other quick thing, if you need a Mother's Day gift, we will be having our Mother's Day rolled flower class. So don't miss that. We have one more of those classes this year or this month. So don't miss that class. This is a fun one to do. Okay. So guys, thank you so much. Don't forget that you will get the recorded version of the class, and you'll be able to start and stop as you go along, as you need. Check out our Facebook groups. If you find that you still have problems, we'll keep our eye on it. If you're in the beginner group or the paper crafting group or the official Cricut group, we'll keep our eyes on that. Our facilitators will keep their eyes on that. If you have any problems finishing up your project, let us know and we will help you. You can always tag me, Kesley.365, and I'll see your project. All right. So I think that's everything, guys. For the Father's Day class, will there be more than one class? Yes, there will be. There's one in May for sure, and then there'll be at least one more in June. So you'll have at least 2 chances to take that class in there. And Fatina, I use the I use Cricut Access. I love it. I can make my own designs, but it's so much easier because all the designs are in Design Space. So you can create all of my projects. And if you use an image that's in there and you have Design Space, if you have Cricut Access, then they're free. If you don't have Cricut Access, you just can purchase the images as you go, as needed. If that helps, if that was your class, if that was your question. All right, guys, we are going to end this class. Thank you all so much for your time. I can't wait to see your finished projects. And I hope to see everyone in a future class. Don't forget about that survey at the end when Zoom ends. So thank you guys. Round of applause to everybody and to our fabulous experts.